He walked away from the beautiful game years ago, and today I'm here to drag him back. Welcome to another episode of the Son of a Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And in today's episode, as you can probably guess by our t-shirts, we are talking about football. We're going to be talking about Real Madrid and Barcelona. We're going to be talking about how my dad walked away from football, how he stopped watching it, and how I fell in love with it, and how I continue watching it. Today we're going to dive deep into it. What do you say, my dude?
I am your father, and I hate football.
He does
Soccer,
hate
football.
No, not soccer, football. So, as probably the three avid viewers that we have know, you don't like football, and you've mentioned in the past that you don't really get it anymore. But not so long ago, we were driving back from... I don't remember where we were driving back from, but you told me that you actually used to love football, and that really caught me by surprise. Because ever since I've been growing up, you've always been a basketball man. You've always loved basketball, but you've always hated football. You always said it's people always fall over and flop over and stuff like that. Obviously, I've never seen you liking football, and I just can't imagine it. So could you kind of go through when you started liking football and when you stopped, and why ultimately?
Well, I started liking football ever since I was a little kid. As you know, I grew up in Madrid. Mm-hmm. And at that time in Spain, this post-dictatorship era, really soccer was the only sport in Spain that you could properly watch on TV. And being in Madrid, which is home to the best football team in the world, I was a Madrid fan. I was a football fan, and I actually really enjoyed football. I was a tiny little athlete at those times, at that age, and I really enjoyed it. I did grow up in an American school, so there in the school we did play football, but we also played baseball and things like that. But outside, it was football. It was soccer, and it was Real Madrid versus Barca, just like it is now. And we used to live in a big house with a huge garden. A huge, beautiful grass garden, and much to the chagrin and the anger of our gardener, we used to love playing in that garden. It was a perfect place for football, because the grass was exactly the same as it is in the football pitches, and that's all we did. I remember playing with my brother. My brother was a goalkeeper, and I was forward, or whatever you call it, and we used to play for hours and hours on it. And I used to love it.
Well, that journey is like hard for me to imagine.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you throughout my whole life you've been so anti-football. You know, I think the only times you've been kind of into football a bit has been during the World Cups and the Eurocopas and stuff like that, the Euro Cups.
Yeah.
But even then, you're not.
Well, I still enjoy watching a really good football match, and when the sport is good, it's good. You have to admit it. I just don't like the way it's played these days, or when I stopped watching it. I'm not really sure if it's played like that anymore. I think it is, because I have watched it with you.
Rarely, but yeah, we have watched it.
Of course, yeah, and if you're watching, of course, football is the at least here in Europe, it's the one game that everybody watches. So when there's a big match going on, when there's a Champions League final, when there's I don't know, whatever it is, I'm not really sure what the tournaments are these days. But whenever there's a big match, everybody talks about it, everybody feels it, so it's nice to watch, just to keep up with the times. But I stopped liking it. But however, when I grew up, I remember when we moved from Madrid to Malaga, that was 1982, which I don't know if you know, but that year there was a World Cup, and it was hosted here in Spain.
Yeah.
And it was everything, the whole, until the Expo in 92, nothing had ever happened in Spain that was even closely, remotely similar to that year. And the whole country was just alive. I mean, even Franco's death, 12 years before that didn't mean anything. Was nothing compared to to Spain hosting the World Cup, and all that year was absolutely great. You know, I can't remember what the classification was or how Spain ended up or who won. Probably Germany or one of these.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that year was absolutely great for football. You know, with our mascot, little orange guy, Naranjito. Yeah, it was great. It was great. And then eventually I grew up. I became a teenager. We at Sunnyview School, we used to play. It was mostly an American school at that time, so there was more basketball than football. Even though I still played a lot of football. In fact, I was the youngest player among the older guys because I was so good. But eventually I just left it. It was easier to play basketball. Basketball was cooler. Most of the teenage girls used to hang out up in the basketball court rather than in the bottom courts where we played football. So I gravitated towards that. We discovered the NBA and the Dream Team and Jordan and Shaquille and Magic Johnson and all those guys. And to be honest, that was much cooler than football or soccer. And so I just changed sides. When I came back to watch football, it had totally changed. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, man, what happened here? This is not at all the sport I remember, you know?
Yeah.
And so I stopped watching. In fact, again, as usual, I think I'm probably answering all your questions, but there you go. In one go. I went from a guy that didn't watch football, but remembered it with fondness, to a guy that actively disliked football, because when I came back to watch it, not only was it a totally different sport, it was a very ungentlemanly sport. It was it was a sport for pussies, basically. I'm really sorry to piss everybody off here, but all I saw was just a bunch of 20-year-old pussies running around the football pitch, falling down, crying like babies. And it was a fashion game. It was no longer a sport. It was a sport of fashion. I remember seeing the coaches dressed as if they were in a fashion show rather than a football game. And then these kids, when they weren't on the floor writhing in pain, the poor wee souls, they were arguing and having fistfights. You know, so it wasn't my game anymore. I came from a place where football was competitive, but healthy competition, where everybody was a gentleman. When somebody failed, you helped them up, and you apologize instead of calling him a name. And when you lost with grace rather than a little baby crying, basically. Oh, people are gonna hate me. I'm gonna get so much grief for all this.
Probably, but it's your opinion, so it is what it is. Also, I just searched up, and Italy won the World Cup in 1982.
Italy, of course. Yeah. Italy would.
So I find it funny how you didn't actually turn away from football because you ended up disliking it, but because you found something that you liked better. And then once you came back, you were like, oh, this isn't what I remembered it to be.
It was quite a few years. I think maybe when I stopped watching football, it must have been in 1984, 85. And I really didn't try to watch it again until maybe the mid-90s or something, you know?
Oh, wow.
And the players had totally changed. It was suddenly, it suddenly changed from Butragueño to Zidane, right? And also there was no Spanish players anymore, right? That also was shocking. That didn't really put me off the game, but I thought it also turned into a business rather than just a game. And I just didn't like it. It's true. But for instance, the NBA already was a huge business and already was a huge show sport when I started watching it, right? Whereas, to be honest, Spanish football in the 80s, I'm assuming that's also the same way it was in the rest of Europe, but Spanish football in the 80s was quite simple, to be honest, right? If you look at the players, they're all short and stodgy. They're not really athletes. They're just a bunch of guys playing. The technical side, apart from Pelé, Maradona, and all these guys, Ardiles wasn't really there. It wasn't a science, right? There wasn't really much science behind the playing, and that's what I grew up with. So I didn't even question it, right? If in your case, for instance, I'm assuming if you watch an old football game from the 80s now, you probably think like, oh man, these guys aren't even moving, right?
Yeah, you see clips and you're like, wow, these guys it looks like a football a game from the patio, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
from the
But
locals
that's
playing.
right. So then, if you fast forward a few years, suddenly you got this super athletes that don't make the most of their athleticism because they're always on the floor writhing and crying. And so it didn't resonate with me, right? And then there was, of course, everything that went around it. There was no business in the early '80s, mid '80s. There was no business of football. It was just a game, right?
Yeah.
And when all that changed, I thought, oh man, you've lost the essence of the game. I think I've regained it a little bit more now. I understand it a little bit more now, thanks to you. But I still get really angry when these kids just fall on the floor and pretend they're hurt. In fact, right now I'm getting a little angry. So let's stop talking about it.
It's so exaggerated, but and obviously a big thing, even like especially nowadays, is rivalry, between Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yes.
Was that as prominent or even more back then, or?
Oh yeah, no, it was there all the time. Real Madrid, Barcelona was like, it's always been El Clásico has always been El Clásico no matter what.
Yeah.
And Real Madrid's always been better, and Barcelona pretends that they are better. You know, it hasn't changed. Hasn't changed one bit. And what I find really funny is the fact that I'm a Madrid fan, and you are, out of all things, a Barcelona fan. I mean, it just. I mean, are you my son? Are you my son? I mean.
Well,
is that a thing?
Our whole family is Real Madrid. I'm the outcast, aren't I? Because everyone's a Real Madrid fan.
Yeah,
I'm the only.
I don't think Mum really gives a damn.
No, but I'm talking about the family in general, including all the uncle and aunt and stuff like that.
Yeah, all our
cousins,
family. Yeah.
They're all.
Yeah, most of them are. Yeah.
The ones that have watched and care about football are Real Madrid fans.
Which begs the question, my child, my son.
Why am I a Barcelona
Why
fan?
the hell do you like Barcelona and not Madrid? I mean, what happened to you? Where did I go wrong?
You didn't go wrong anywhere, honestly. You did the right thing and you let me choose. And it's much better that I chose Barcelona than Madrid. But anyways, it's quite funny because obviously I grew up with you not liking football, so like with how things normally happen, I didn't like football when I grew up. And I didn't watch it, so I didn't know anything about it. And in school, I made friends, and they liked football. And eventually, when we started into gaming, they played this game called FIFA. I was like, "What the hell is this?" So I was like, they were all playing it, so I decided to get it and to try and play with them. And it turns out it was a football game. Started playing it, and naturally, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was obviously I knew the basics of there was a ball, you had to score the ball into the goal and things like that. But I'll be playing and all of a sudden the game would stop and I'll be like, what? Why did it stop? What what did I do? So basically I decided that the way to go around it was to learn the game of football and to watch it and to start trying to be a fan of it. And at the time, I asked the person that was the best at football and who was the best player that I knew, which was Rodri, and he told me he was a Barca fan, so I started watching him. And there was this little Argentinian player on that team called Messi, who
he's a Messi guy,
who is and was the best in the world, and in history probably. And I watched him and I fell in love with what he could do with the ball. And I continued watching Barca, and that's when it started. Basically, I never stopped. And then I went on to play futsal, which is, for people who don't know, it's basically five-a-side football and indoors. Instead of outdoors on a grass pitch, it's on indoors on the preferable is like on a plastic, I guess, like just on an indoor pitch. Sometimes you play outside on cement, which isn't the best, especially for me when I was a goalkeeper, but it is what it is. And now I watch Barca every week, every single game that they play, I watch. I've been watching them for the past 7-8 years now.
Right. And do you firmly believe that Barca is the best team?
Right now, Barca is the best team in Spain, yeah.
right, in Spain. How about the world? Because you're not, I mean, you're Spanish, but you grew up in Spain. But why do you follow a Spanish team? Why don't you follow Manchester United or something like that?
Because I grew up in Spain, so that's the team that normally the teams that are available to me are the Spanish teams more than the English teams. Well, not necessarily now because of streaming and stuff, but especially when I started getting into it, I only really watched Spanish teams play. So
yeah, and your position, just like my brother's, was a goalkeeper, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, I was a goalkeeper. I was like,
why goalkeeper? Why not anything else?
Because I'm not particularly good at actually playing football.
Right.
I'm not particularly good at with my feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined the team, and I joined as a goalkeeper because I knew that that's what I was the best at. And because when I started playing football in school, if you're bad at football, they say, okay, go goalkeeper and try to do your best.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd only know how to play goalkeeper. So
fair enough.
And cool. I was good at it as well. So,
and listen, I'm curious. I want to know what's your take on the modern playing, because you grew up with these kids on the floor.
Yeah.
Right. Do you find it normal, or do you, or when you watch the game, you're like, oh man, come on, get on with it?
The thing is, you exaggerated it a lot more than how it actually is.
No, I don't.
The way you talk about it is as if every 2 minutes there's someone on the ground, but it's not really like that. It's maybe every 10 minutes there's someone on the ground.
It's more like every 30 seconds. Pero bueno.
And yeah, I mean, it's I don't think it's.
Is there a reason for it? It's because obviously these kids aren't hurt, right?
It depends on the tackle, but sometimes no, they're not. They're just trying to get the foul. Yeah.
Right, and what's the point of that?
Well, it depends. They could get a penalty for it. They could get a yellow card for the other team, a second yellow, which would turn into a red card.
But isn't it more logical to just forget about it and go for the goal, which is what you're there for?
It depends. If you're going and you see there's 3 people in front of you, and they're like, well, I can't really do anything, and someone does a tackle on you, and you're like, well, now I have an excuse, like they did a foul on me, then
yeah, so you get up and you continue. Anyway, well, we're not gonna get into that because we could be here for hours. I just think it's a waste of. I think it's a waste of resources, to be honest. These kids are amazing athletes. I have to admit it, and the level of technicality in football has grown incredibly. But it's just a different game, and also the business side of things. It's just too huge. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't really get. I'm out of the loop, right? So I don't get all these championships. I don't get the UEFA Championship, and I don't get the Champions League and the European Champions and the whatever it is, and the Liga and the Copa del Rey. They're all just, the way I remember, there was just one Liga and one Eurocopa and then the World Cup. Maybe I'm wrong, huh? I mean, I was very young.
You're probably wrong, because at least the Copa del Rey and stuff, like the domestic cups and stuff, they have been around for years. They were around when you were there. But probably because you just watched Real Madrid play, so...
Yeah, I was only little. I mean, I was only like 10 years old. At 10 years old, you're not, you don't really care about the details, right? At least me, anyway. and I mean, I do remember with fondness. Was it 2010, right, when Spain won the Shakira World Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. That was a very, very annoying final as well, because these Dutch people just kept on kicking the Spaniards, right? And that was a prime example of a game where they just spent their time on the floor. Right, yeah. and it was very unnerving.
There's a few of the kicks where it's like, dude, that's
they were quite brutal. Yeah, they were. I
remember that there's one kick where it's literally a flying kick where they just kick Xabi Alonso in the chest.
Right in the chest. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, see, that was brutal. That was.
Anyways, that was crazy. That wasn't a red card, but anyways, that's for another story.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually, that's something else I've read. I've read that referees these days are very different to what they used to be. Is that true? I mean, I know that they have all this technology at their fingertips now. They have the what is it, the VAR or whatever,
Yeah.
and the linesmen, and I think I even read somewhere that the players have some sort of GPS trackers on them so that they can track their stats and how many kilometers they run and the average speed, and all that.
Yeah, they do.
And that's perfectly logical and perfectly obvious. We live in a technological world. But why do referees get so slated now? It's just something I've read that referees now, the quality of refereeing has gone down, and they don't really know what they're doing, or is that just football players banter?
I think right now the state of the referees, talking mostly about in Spain, because that's the league that I watch, is appalling. to be quite frank with you, I mean, yesterday Barcelona played against Villarreal, and they did a couple calls where thankfully there's VAR now, so they can do the right thing. But it's like, dude, I don't know what you're doing.
And the ref was wrong in this case. They called something that was wrong.
Yeah, but it was like completely wrong. There was a goal that Barcelona scored that was they said was offside, but the player was not offside by like 2 whole meters.
Right.
You know, and you see the repetition. It's like, dude, I don't like what.
But isn't that understandable? Isn't there something to be said for the margin of human error? I mean, if the obviously the referee. I mean, I know that the referees they look fit these days. They're not like the old referees with their pot bellies and things like that. But even then, there's a big chance that the referee can't keep up with the speed that these players have. So there's a big chance that the referee might be 15 meters behind the player, and that's why he's got the 2 lines refs, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be enough and allow for the margin of error? Like if the ref calls it and he's wrong, well, he's wrong. Whatever, go back to take it like a man and shoot your foul or whatever it is, and try the next time. Does it have to be that exact, like millimeters precisely? Or
well, here's the thing, right? These linesmen, so it's the linesmen that call the offside, right?
Right.
And their whole job is to, you see when they just run up and down the pitch, following the normally the last defender, so they can see, right? And if they get it wrong by a few centimeters, well, it's like, okay, fair enough, like they're far away, they get it wrong, they call it, but just in case. But in this case, even if you're, let's say they're 15 meters in front of you, right? You can tell 2 meters apart quite well.
So are you saying that they're just really, really bad, or are you saying that they kind of did it on purpose because they're biased?
I don't want to say they're biased because I mean there's no I have no proof on that. But all I can say is that
they got it wrong.
They get it wrong, and there's some things that they get it wrong, and there's some things that they do that are just questionable.
Right.
And especially in this day and age of where we have VAR and everything's taken footage, that everything's recorded and you can see everything, and you can do we can rewind and watch the play 10,000 times. They still get things wrong, and it's blatant things, right? Where you think to yourself, you're like, how I get if
how are you getting paid for this?
Well, it's not how you're getting paid for this, but how are you getting it wrong? You know what I mean? Yeah. You're getting paid for this, so how are you getting it wrong?
So, do you agree with the VAR, with all these technologies? Because I also understand throughout the years, I've understood that it's one of the sports that has adopted that technology the latest because people generally were against it, right? Am I right there, or am I
wrong? Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I'm for it. I think it makes the game better. It could make the game be a bit more taken. I don't know. But basically, there's taken with tweezers, I guess. Cogido con pinzas. I don't know how to say it in English, but anyways, which in a way is bad, but in another way it's good. So I think it's a good thing. But what I don't get is how with these technologies we still get it wrong. You know what I mean?
Get it wrong. Yeah. Well, I tend to agree that I'm bitching about it now, but just because I'm playing devil's advocate. But I think. Considering the amount of stakes there are in these games, the amount of money that's been put into them, the amount of resources that the teams are putting on, I think it's logical that they would have some sort of technology for whenever there is a disagreement, they can see what the reality is. Because obviously, maybe a few centimeters can make the difference between millions of euros lost. right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming, and that's normal because right now it's much more of a business than a sport. So seeing as that's the stance you're taking, you have to make sure that the money spent and the money earned are well spent and well earned.
Yeah, 100%.
And these technologies help.
However, I say this, and they did. I think they implemented it last year. I'm pretty sure this like 3D technology for the offsides. So it's
All
like
right.
semi-automatic, and they do 3D modeling of the players and stuff, so they can get it exactly.
Cool.
Which in theory is very cool, but in practice they've done it completely and utterly wrong.
Really?
Because if you use your brain logically, right?
Yeah.
Me and you, we don't have the same 3D model, right?
Yeah.
I'm like 10 centimeters taller than you. My feet size is 3 sizes bigger than yours, or I don't know, whatever, right? So you can't use the same 3D model for both of us.
Yeah.
But in this new technology, everybody has the same 3D model.
All right.
And it's happened before where the technology gets confused with players' feet.
Right.
So it gives offside when in reality you can tell by the image that it's not offside.
And this is something that's actively being used now?
That's actively being used now, and
I didn't know.
And it's actively given wrong
statistics and data, wrong data.
Given a wrong outcome before.
Right.
If it's not done properly, don't do it. You know what I mean?
Sure. But I guess you have to test it somehow, right? But yeah, you don't test it in high stakes.
Yeah, and if you can see it's not working, take it out instead of leaving it for tools. Okay. But anyways,
but are you still, regardless of all this, you're still a huge fan of football? It's still your favorite sport, and you wouldn't give it up for the
100%.
Would you? We've been talking about relationships a lot. Would you allow, or do you think it's logical and normal that your passion for football would affect your relationship in any way? What I'm trying to say is, do you think, like, you're single right now?
Yeah.
Do you think even subconsciously, do you think you would look for a partner that likes football or likes Barca? Do you think you could go out with a girl that likes Real Madrid?
Yeah, I could. I mean, I don't see a problem in it. I have family members that are Real Madrid fans, so.
Well, I mean, I say because I have been witness to broken relationships because of football.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, and there's 8 billion people in the world, so anything can happen. But
do you think
it's not a determining factor for me if you like football, if you don't, if you like Barca, if you don't.
But do you think the passion that people feel for football is warranted? That huge passion that just makes them calling sick to work because their favorite team lost, things like that? I
mean, I wouldn't do that, but there's some people that this is literally their life and they live for this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So do I think it's a bit over the top? Yes, but at the same time, it's
I think we should. Yeah, I think that's a podcast on its own. Actually, talk about passion, violence in sports, violence, not just football, because it does happen everywhere else. But football, it just seems to hit the news a little bit more. Because there are more fans, there's more.
It's played all over the world.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting conversation to have about that because it's
definitely
it's one I'd like to touch on. Excellent. So now we're moving forward towards is it this year, 2026, the next World Cup?
Yeah, it's this year.
Right, and it's all over the place, right? It's not like it used to be. It's not like you played in one country. Now you're playing it like the World Cup. You're literally playing it all over the world, or is it like in
the main multiple, like 3 nearby countries? So I'm pretty sure this year it's in Mexico, USA, and Canada.
Right, maybe not Mexico.
Yeah, with all these cartel things that are going on. We'll see. But,
right, and I'm assuming that's to do with business, right? That has to do with
that's to do with
the
money
stakes,
as well.
Right? With money and all that. No, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I'm not lucky. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching a good game.
Mm-hmm.
A good game in which I can stick to the same team.
Yeah, right? That's another thing, guys. I can't watch football with my parents. Both of them, not just my dad, because I'm not joking when I say they could swap teams. Like they could be rooting for one team and then go to the opposite team that they're playing against, like 5 times in one game.
But isn't that normal? If they're playing better, you change. I mean,
No, you stick with your team that you support. Because this whole thing, this started with in the 2022 World Cup, right? Spain was playing against Japan in a very important group stage game where if they won, they went through. If they lost, they didn't, and stuff like that. And quite literally, we were watching the game, and all of a sudden, my parents both say we're rooting for Japan, and I was like, "What?"
Well, they were playing much better, and they were actually trying so much harder than Spain. It was clear that they needed some support. Those guys, so
I think I'm pretty sure I left the room to go watch it by myself because I was like, I'm not.
You got really angry.
I'm not going to be here and with you guys if you're rooting for the other team. Because if it was a normal game, fine, but your own country, like how you're not going to support your own country.
Yeah, but it's I don't know, man. If they're playing better, if they're doing a better job, if they're trying harder, they deserve to be followed.
No, you have to stick with your team, man. Always. Always.
I don't know. I guess. To be honest, I've always been very, very. I love graphic design, right? So, it's part of the reason why I really dislike Barcelona. I mean, that uniform is absolutely horrendous. Those colors they just do not match whatsoever. I can't believe that year on year, you still have that blue and that granate, that red, because it's just absolutely horrific. It's horrible. Whereas, white goes with anything. There you go. Just a few lines, you're there, Good stuff.
So that's guys, why my dad uses Barca and Real Madrid to try to piss me off. Because I know, because here's the thing. If you've ever seen my dad, I think you've probably seen him wear a white t-shirt, maybe, or not even a white t-shirt, white piece of clothing, probably 5 times, and
True.
3 of them are because of weddings.
That's true. I am not a fan of white, and in fact, I'm seeing myself now in the selfie camera here with this white thing, and to be honest, I look like a hooligan. Where's my black and my skulls? Right. So anyway, listen, to finish off, there was one thing, one very quick thing I wanted to touch on, which I forgot what it was.
No, it's perfect. Well, actually, I'll ask you a different question. What would I have to do to get you to try to sit down and watch a football match with me, and not try to piss me off to the whole thing?
Well, I don't try to piss you off. That's what you think. You just get pissed off because I'm a very unconventional watcher.
I know you try to piss me off because you say something, I'll look at you and you're smirking there trying to see if you get a reaction on me. There's no way.
No, I'd love to be able to watch. I still like watching a really good game. Mm-hmm. A really good game of football I really, really enjoy. And all it takes, if I could watch 3 games in a row that didn't piss me off, I would probably get back into it. It's a great game. It's a great game. There's a reason why it's the biggest sport in the world, because it really is a very tactical, very cool game.
It's the beautiful game, isn't it?
Having 11 players to coordinate in one place is no easy task.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when it's played properly, it's a great game. So I just need to see 3 games that are being played properly according to my standards, and then I'll be hooked again. But so far, no juice, man. Last time I saw one, it was so boring.
But yeah, I think this is a good place to leave it off. Hopefully we can bring it back, and I'll keep you guys updated if my dad turns into a football fan. Maybe he turns into a Barca fan. Who knows?
Well, actually, I'll publicly admit that I have been, before this podcast, I looked at some statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And statistically, Barca is better than Madrid.
Okay.
They have won more championships. And overall, they've scored more points, more goals than Madrid. So I'll give you that one.
Okay.
I'll give you that one. That technically and statistically, they're better. They just got to change their uniform. Anyway, man, it's been a pleasure. Never thought I'd be sitting here discussing football with my son. But
it's kind of a weird moment, this, isn't it? But yeah, thank you all very much for tuning into another episode of the Son of a podcast. It was a really good episode talking about Barca and Real Madrid, about football, about the beautiful game. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know down in the comments. If you agree with anything or disagree with anything we said, let us know. Like and subscribe. And is there anything you want to say before we head off?
Nothing at all, man. Keep
Perfect.
it playing. Keep it good.
Well, thank you guys very much, and bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye-bye.